Hello, everybody. I am alive and welcome to my weekly live Q&A, episode number 9. My name is Danny Segura. You might know me from MMA Junkie, formerly MMA Fighting, worked with the MMA Beat, the MMA Hour. And yes, welcome. Today is a bit of a different situation. Usually I've been doing these around Sundays, like midday, maybe a little bit later in the afternoon. But I know Eastern time is a bit late, but I'm not in Eastern time zone. I'm in Pacific time zone right now. I'm in beautiful Las Vegas, fabulous Las Vegas, as they say. And getting ready to cover UFC 248, the upcoming pay-per-view, Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. I'll be covering that event for MAJunkie.com and, doing other things as well. So I'm here, so things are a little bit differently. I don't have the setup that I usually have, so this is a little bit on the road slash makeshift. Did bring my HD camera, so hopefully the quality is nice and good there, and hopefully the audio is not that bad. Anyways, thank you for joining me. As I said, I'm in Vegas getting ready for UFC 248, so a lot to discuss there. Also, we just wrapped up yesterday with UFC Norfolk, where Joseph Benavidez failed to capture the flyweight title, and Figueiredo won, but wasn't able to get the title because of his inability to make weight on Friday. So a lot to discuss there as well. Plus, there's been some news and headlines, so tons of things to address. Now I know I did this kind of like last minute, but I didn't know if my flight was gonna get delayed, and then I didn't know how all that was gonna work out. So I didn't want to promise that I was gonna do one of these and then come up short. So. But I made it. The flight didn't get delayed. It was a nice and pleasant flight from New York to Vegas. And and then surprisingly enough, within the little time that I was able to announce that I was going to do one of these, I had a good amount of questions submitted. So we have good things to get right into it. So if you're new to this, the way this works is I've asked you guys to submit questions via Twitter. I will answer those first. Those get priority. And then I'll take things to the live chat. I already see people are throwing in questions. You're gonna gamble? Spot on Pick says, I don't know. Probably not, because it requires a lot of money. It depends how I like to play blackjack. It depends what the minimum on the hand is. Maybe I'll play a little bit, but other than that, I don't like to play anything else. Anyways, yes. So let's get right into it. You guys submitted Twitter questions, so I'm gonna tackle those right now. Again, this goes for about an hour, so I'll go to about 8:30 Pacific time and then call it quits. So again, if you didn't have time to submit questions via Twitter, don't worry about it. Throw it on the live chat, and I'll get to it when I'm done with the Twitter questions. All right. So because of UFC Norfolk, I'm not going to answer these chronologically. I will answer all Twitter questions, but I'll tackle those first and then move on to the ones that people asked about UFC 248. So, Farah, do you think the UFC can end the 125-pound category after last night? Marcos Aluj Farah from Malaysia. Well, thank you so much, Marcus, for submitting that. And also, I've never been to Malaysia, but I'd love to go. Yes, so that was a hot topic. A champion was supposed to be crowned last night at UFC Norfolk. That didn't happen, and now everybody's left wondering, what's going to happen? What's going on? I mean, is Cejudo still the champion? We thought he relinquished the belt. If not, is Figueiredo going to fight again, basically like Yoel Romero did when he fought Luke Rockhold, and I guess fight somebody else for the vacant belt? It's just a whole mess. I tweeted this last night, right, watching the fights. I'm like, the UFC should have had a contingency plan. The UFC should have had another flyweight ready to make 125 pounds. There should have been a replacement opponent there, because this was literally the worst case scenario for the flyweights. The fact that they don't have a champion. And Joseph Benavidez was sort of supposed to be that guy, right? He had the veteran, the name, right? If he were to become champion, it would have kind of felt like a big deal, because he's been around for a long time. Remember, the division was created for guys like himself, Demetrius Johnson, really two of the best bantamweights at the time, that when they fought Dominic Cruz, you could tell, dude, these guys are so good. They're just small. They're just smaller than Cruz, and Cruz is able to beat them that way. Obviously, using skill as well, not trying to take anything away from Cruz, but it was evident in those fights that there was a need for an 125-pound division. There was an area where smaller guys can compete, because at some point in time, people thought just 135 is the smallest a man athlete can get, but we clearly see that that's not the case with Benavidez and a few other guys as well. So yeah, man, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Let's pull up the UFC rankings right now because I do think this is interesting. It seemed for a little bit that the division was safe. It seemed that everything was okay, that Cejudo really saved the division, right? There was a title fight in place when he left. It seemed that they were signing new flyweights, right? Brandon Moreno went back into the UFC and a few other guys as well. But that stopped. That stopped a while ago. I haven't heard of them signing another flyweight in a while. And I believe they don't even have enough flyweights. Let's see. So they do have 15 flyweights. I don't even know if all are in the UFC, are currently like active fighters. But yeah, man, this is just a messed up situation. If the UFC were to get rid of the division, I mean, a perfect time would be now, right? Because they don't have to strip anyone. Cejudo relinquished his belt, and they couldn't get it resolved between Figueiredo and Joseph Benavidez. So if there's the time to get rid of a division, is now when there's no champion, right? You don't want the whole PR of, hey, look, you're taking away the belt from this champion and making him, go up and just become a regular fighter up another division where, they're not optimal, right? You avoid all that. That's literally non-existent right now. And look, one of the biggest reasons why the UFC sort of kept the division, right, and didn't completely go away was because Cejudo was doing the triple C persona, the whole thing. And all of a sudden, a lot of people were paying attention to that division. TJ Dillashaw, just the fact that he wanted to drop down and fight, that was a super fight already in the making. There was a lot of buzz around it. If Benavidez would have held the belt, there could have been some buzz around that. Just the fact that he has a winner versus Cejudo, he can always entice him to come back down. Also, just the fact that he's Joe B, right? I mean, this guy's an OG of the game. And if Figueiredo would have won the belt, that would have been tough, but it would have been a little bit of a better option, right, to have at least a champion. But, it's someone that doesn't speak English. That's not a big name. So that would have been problematic within itself. But literally, no one winning the belt was the worst case scenario. So I don't know if the UFC will get rid of the division, but if there's a time to do it, it'd be now. Unfortunately, I hate to say that because I'm a huge fan of the flyweights. I'm a huge fan of that division, of what they can do. I think some of the most technical fighters on the UFC roster fight on that weight class. I mean, it's a weight class that everyone's athletic. You can't get by from just using speed and strength. Like that doesn't, a heavyweight, you can pull that off, right? You can, in a certain weight class, your physicality can get you through places. But at flyweight, what really gets you at the top is technique. And we've seen that obviously with Demetrius Johnson. That's a prime example, and Cejudo as well. So yeah, man, Farah, to answer your question, I don't have an answer to it, but it is in jeopardy, I do feel like, and it's definitely not in a good position. I don't know what other fighter besides Joseph Benavidez, who, lost again in a title fight. I mean, who else can they pull from that division right now and make an enticing fight that'll be big? Either way, I think even if it's not like they don't have the biggest names at the very top fighting for the belt or as champions, I do think it serves a purpose and a service within the UFC. Like, look, this UFC Norfolk card was somewhat big, or it had some appeal because of the flyweight. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a championship fight, right? Without it, that card would have been pretty bad, to be honest. I mean, it wasn't a good card. So it's still, you still have a champion. You still have someone that you can put in pay-per-views, as co-main event or headline these fight night cards, or UFC on ESPN, which are a little bigger than the ESPN Plus ones, and have some sort of meaning there. So even if it's not the biggest sellout, I do think it's still nice and it serves a good purpose for the UFC to have just another division, another belt in circulation. So I hope it doesn't go away, but man, I don't know. At this point, all bets are off. I have no idea. Mahir Noor on Twitter asks, did you watch El Clásico today? And if you did, what are your feelings on the victory? On a different note, do you see Cejudo, or do you Cejudo comes back down and reclaims the flyweight belt, or do you think it over for the division, or do you think it's over for the division? You got to work on your tweeting skills there, my friend. But no, great question. I didn't watch El Clásico. I was flying, as I mentioned. I literally got to Vegas around like an hour ago, maybe a little bit more. I didn't watch it, but I did see Luke Thomas tweet some stuff about it. So I'm guessing, Real Madrid won, because otherwise, he remains quiet. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say because I didn't really watch the game, but I don't know. I like, it's a bittersweet thing because I like watching Barcelona lose as much, maybe just as much as I like watching Real lose. So either way, whatever. But yeah, I can't talk much smack because Atletico is doing quite poorly. They tied today with Espanyol. I watched that in the morning. That was at 10 a.m. And it was Saul scored an amazing goal, but it's still a tie, still a 1 point, and they can't seem to put a few wins together. It's just a bunch of ties, and now we're in fifth place. So that's pretty bad. The team's definitely not doing good, but at least we did beat Liverpool 1-0. Again, not a huge lead, but nonetheless a lead, right? And we still have Champion League's hope. So I'm holding on to that, and I'll probably watch the highlights of a Clásico as soon as I wrap up with this. I always love watching Clásico. Always nice little rivalry, fun games, and two of the best teams in Europe. So high world class soccer right there. Now, on the second part of the question, do you see Cejudo coming back and reclaiming the flyweight belt, or do you think it's over for the division? Again, I think it'd be huge if Cejudo were to drop down to 125 again, due to the fact that obviously he's become a bit of a name. And, again, one of the reasons why he was able to sell this persona or the whole Triple C is how much gold he had, right? Right now, he only has one belt. And I know he likes that look with the two belts. So, dropping back down to 125, I think it'd be a much easier task than challenging Volkanovski at 145, because I know he's dropped that name before. So hopefully he does drop. But I'll say this. Last time I saw Cejudo was at UFC Mexico City when Yair Rodriguez fought Jeremy Stevens, or basically they didn't fight. And we went to the UFC, the media and I, the entire media, we went, or some of the media went to a UFC gym in Mexico City. I believe it was in like Polanco. And there was Brian Ortega, Kim Velasquez, and Henry Cejudo. And we interviewed them. Actually, funny enough, at the time I was with MMA Fighting, it was really me and just John Morgan for MMA Fighting, who's now my colleague. The only two English media outlets. So we had our separate scrums. But anyways, that's neither here or there. Cejudo basically, he's gotten big, man. I mean, he not as fat, but he's gotten stocky. I mean, he's always been like a stocky dude. We know in the past he's had troubles making 125, and now fighting at 135. You wonder how much weight did he without him being forced to cut down to 125 and being able to fight at 135. You wonder how much weight did he put on, and how much of that can he get rid of again, right? So I believe he told me he was walking around 160 then. That's big. That's a big cut to walk down to 125. Again, he wasn't in a training camp. He was just recovering, I believe, from a hand surgery, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that, but some sort of injury. So again, he wasn't in the best shape. So, but still, 160 is big, man. I mean, Demetrius Johnson and Joseph Benavidez, these guys walk around like 135. I mean, heaviest 140. So you add 20 more pounds, 25 more pounds to that. I don't know how realistic the cut is to 125, and that was really the reason why he relinquished the belt, because if he's going to fight again, it's probably easier for him to defend the 135 belt again, get back into shape, get down to that weight, and then maybe see if he can get 125, right? But again, that's too much wait time, and the UFC needed to move on and implement a belt there, so that's why the interim title came about. So I don't know. I honestly don't know if Cejudo can make 125 again. He's had issues before in the past, and he hasn't made 125 in a bit. Here, I'll put some numbers to my thoughts, some receipts. Let's see. Henry Cejudo. Last time Henry Cejudo fought at 125 was against TJ Dillashaw, and that was January 2019. So it's been over a year. That's a long time. So yeah, I don't know. And he's also a little older, right? He's 33. Also, the bigger fights are on 135. They just are. I think if Joseph Benavidez would have won the belt, him going back down and reclaiming it and getting a rematch, because remember, Benavidez has a win over him. That would have been a big fight, but I think that's out the window now. And Joseph Benavidez with, he's not young. He's been around the game for a long time. He's 35 years old. I honestly don't know if there's a road back to the title for him. Maybe. I mean, he's so good that he could do that, but I don't know if that's something the UFC would want to do. Honestly, I don't even know if that's something that he'd want to explore as well. So I don't know what his goals and ambitions are following, his latest defeat. But yeah, we'll see. But if I were a betting man, I don't think Cejudo drops back down to 125. To answer your question, but who knows? All right. Any more questions about Norfolk? Let's see. No. So all the other questions are about UFC 248. If you guys want to continue to talk about Norfolk, I can do that in the live chat. So throw questions there. But as of now, moving on to the UFC 248 questions on Twitter. All right. Terrence Leverett. Always get that. That name's always tricky for me. Let's see. Yes. Besides the two main events, which two other fights are you most excited / has implications for the division about on this card? So I'm guessing because you are replying to my tweet where, there was the little Adesanya Romero promo in the Las Vegas airport, the picture that I took, which I used to announce that, I was going to go live. So let me pull up the card. So this is a pretty good card, man. I'm pretty excited for it. So by the way, just to throw that out there, I did interview Joanna Jędrzejczyk ahead of this fight. I did that like a few weeks ago. So if you want to check that interview out, it's on a playlist under interviews on my YouTube channel, obviously for MMAJunkie.com. So you can check that out. Let's see. So really, this is the two biggest fights are obviously the main and co-main event. Two title fights, obviously the middleweight title up for grabs in the main event, and in the co-main event, the strawweight title with Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And then below that, there are some good fights, but maybe not so big. But let's see. I love the Sean O'Malley versus Teco Quiñones. Teco Quiñones is a bad dude, man. And he's got an interesting story. Actually, I'm going to see if I can talk to him this week. The dude's been getting backed by the Mexican government, basically. The government in Zacatecas has been, providing him places to train, food, people to do his nutrition, etc. Like they're backing him. Zacatecas is backing him so hard. And I can't think of any other fighter that literally they're getting government help, for their training. It's crazy. And he's a very good boxer, tough dude, moves a lot, has very good movement, packs power, not afraid to get into a firefight. And Sean O'Malley hasn't fought in a while. He's a rangy guy that has good striking as well, very exciting dude, has good jiu-jitsu, underrated jiu-jitsu, I would say. So that's a good scrap. I'm looking forward to that one. Also, that was booked a while ago and it didn't come to fruition. I believe O'Malley had some issues with USADA. That's what pulled him against Teco Quiñones, and it got rebooked, and that's going down. So that's a good scrap right there. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, Mark Madsen is fighting right below him. So right before him, he'll fight. He's an interesting, I guess, prospect. He is 35 years old, so he's not super young, but he carries a pretty good wrestling background, having represented Denmark in the Olympics. And he's done some things, won several silver medals. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 silver medals in World Championships and the Olympic Games in 2016 in Rio de Janeiro. He won a silver medal as well. So obviously a very skilled guy. And undefeated in MMA, 9-0, kind of like a Gregor Gillespie. Kind of reminds me of that type of, like a version from Denmark, but it kind of reminds me of that. Also fights at lightweight, interestingly enough. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he can do. And he fights He fights Austin Hubbard. I don't know much about the guy, but nonetheless, it's a guy you want to keep your eye on because he could do big things at 155. So those two fights I'm looking forward to. But again, Rodolfo Vieira is fighting on that card as well. I mean, Deron Wynn, teammate of Daniel Cormier. Gil Canetti, Argentina's Gil Canetti. He's getting up there in age. He's like what? He's 40 years old, man, and he's just been looking better and better every time he fights. Again, weird. So some guys just get good, man. Just get good late. I mean, you see it in soccer too. Like a good example, if you watch La Liga, is Aluriz, who plays for Athletic Club. He really only started getting good like maybe like 34, 35, and then 36, 37. He starts killing it, deep into his career. Yeah, there's just some guys that like flourish late, and he's one of them. He lost to Marlon Vera in his last fight in 2018. He hasn't fought in a bit, but he always puts on good fights and brings the heat. So yeah, those are some good fights. The Leech versus Neil Magny is also on this card. This is a damn good card, man. Plenty of fights to look forward to. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question, Terrence. Corey Marsland, any chance you could release these chats on a podcast? Yeah, so that's the plan. That's something I want to do, but it requires two things: time and money. And yeah, I mean, not that I don't have any of those, but I am a little tight on both. Maybe, I mean, I could do it, but I also want to get some things sorted out as far as the presentation and all this goes, which I mentioned on previous live Q&As. Something I want to do. So yeah, I think that will come eventually, just not now. In the near future, for sure, I'll get something sorted out, and you will see this whole experience and this whole live Q&A improve over time. So just hang tight, and I'll get things sorted out. But yes, I appreciate that. That means you like these. So yay. Let's see what other Twitter questions. Hey, Danny, any idea on who Wonder Boy is going to fight next and when? Oh, and if you like the traditional Southern barbecue, check out Rolling Smoke Barbecue. Nice little plug there. Yeah, I love barbecue, so I'll check that out. I have no idea who Wonder Boy's fighting next. No idea. Sorry, I don't have much to say about that. Although he should probably get somebody. What is his last fight still the Pettis fight? Let me see. Stephen Thompson. Or did he fight after that? No, yeah, of course. Yeah, he fought against Vicente Luque. I was there at UFC 244 in New York City. Amazing performance. In fact, one of the best performances of his career. He looked great. I mean, he's always been a guy that, there's very little criticism about him. But the little criticism that there is that sometimes he could be kind of boring. The second Tyron Woodley fight was one of those. He's sometimes too patient, waits too much, stays too much in the outside, point fight a little bit too much. That's his background, so that's what he's going to do. But against Vicente Luque, we saw all that makes him good, but also we saw him move forward. We saw his volume go up, and he looked good. So I hope he gets a top guy. And now that the belt has changed hands and Tyron Woodley's no longer champ, bouts with Kamaru Usman and others, all of a sudden seem very interesting. So hopefully he gets a good fight. Somebody in the top 5, or maybe just outside of it, like 6 or 7. I think that'd be a good fight for him. Good type of opponent, and hopefully he returns soon. I mean, he hasn't fought in since November, so it's been a minute. But as far as leads, no, I don't have anything. Prediction for Tony versus Khabib. I will talk about that further as we get closer to the fight. I don't know, man. I talked to Javier Mendez, another interview that you can check out on MMAJunkie.com. Again, he kind of gave me some confidence on picking picking Khabib. But I know Tony Ferguson is out there, putting in work, and that's a tough dude. That's a tough dude to beat. I think I slightly favor Khabib right now, but like, again, if you guys have been following me long enough, you guys know how I feel about this fight, and you guys know how I feel about Tony Ferguson as a challenger. And I think if there's a guy to beat Khabib, it's either Tony or Justin Gaethje. I think they pose interesting questions that I feel like they haven't been answered yet in Khabib's fights. And if he gets past those two dudes, that is the greatest lightweight of all time, without a doubt. I mean, that's what the challengers are for, right? They're there to question the champion. Are you good in this area? Are you good against jiu-jitsu? Are you good against wrestling? Are you good against striking, certain types of striking? I mean, all these. And all of a sudden, and I mean, throughout all this time, Khabib has checked each box and has answered it the same way, using wrestling. Now, Ferguson, with the elbows, with the ground game, with the scrambles, with the unorthodox, with the toughness, with the pace. We'll see how Khabib answers to that. But I think I favor the champ, but by no means I discount Tony. I think it's pretty much close to a coin flip. So yeah, but again, as the fight gets closer, I'll probably have a little bit more insight and give you a better answer. All right, last Twitter question before I move on to the live chat, the live chat on YouTube. Curtis CPT asks, does Romero, he spelled that wrong, does Romero need to wrestle to win this fight, or do you think he can stand and exchange with Izzy? Ooh, that's a tough one, man. I mean, he could definitely stand. We've seen Romero's, most of the damage that Romero has caused, if you look carefully, has been on the feet. Yes, like everybody talks about how good of a wrestler he is, but if you look at the damage he did against Whitaker, the damage he did against Rockhold, the damage he did against Paulo Costa, let me pull up his record, the damage he did against Chris Weidman, I mean, just the list goes on, has all been on the feet. He's a devastating striker. Now, he's not the most polished striker. Like, he's not out there, making it look pretty, but the dude will take your head off, So let me pull up his record. So he can definitely stand and have success against Easy and possibly, get a knockout like he has in the past. But again, Israel Adesanya is probably the best striker he's fought. So, it's curious to see if he's going to rely on his wrestling. And for how good of a wrestler he was in his wrestling days, he doesn't really bring all that into MMA. Like, yeah, he has some takedowns and he's good at taking people down, but he's not really good at holding people down, and he's not particularly extremely good with ground and pound as well. I think it's not maybe that he's not as good, but I also think that because he's so dangerous and so athletic on the feet, that he goes, F it, why not? Like, I knocked out Chris Weidman. I knocked out Luke Rockhold. I knocked out Lyoto Machida. I mean, these are some of the best strikers out there. And also, this was a few years back, so it's not the guys of today. So I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do against Israel Adesanya. Yoel Romero is a bit unpredictable as far as that goes. My feeling is that he's going to mix it up. He's going to use his wrestling, and that's what's going to open up things on the feet, and he's going to throw those big shots and let Easy know, like, hey, look, you got to keep your guard up because I bring heat, and as soon as you put your guard up, I'm gonna shoot for a takedown and put you down. So yeah, I have no clue what his strategy is going to be. But if you stick around MMAJunkie.com, we'll be talking to him at some point this week, and I'll make sure if I'm the one asking the questions, whether it's a scrum or whatever, I'm sure someone will. So you'll get your answer. But or a answer, because you know if that's what he's actually going to do come fight night. But yeah, I don't know what the plan's going to be. But can he strike with Easy? For sure, and he can have success. I mean, he's had success striking with other phenomenal strikers. So yeah, but again, Easy is the best striker he's fought yet. So I don't know. He's also very rangy, so I don't know if that's the best course of action to go about this fight. Unfortunately, I don't have coffee. If I would have been home, I would have had a nice. Well, no, it would have been like 10 p.m. Well, I would have done it earlier as well. Never mind. Let's see. I think that was it for the Twitter questions. Let me peep through the other tweets to see if everything's good and I didn't miss anyone. Probably some people are asking late. Yep. Mambo Forever. I'll answer your question. I think this weekend pointed out how much of a mess the men's flyweight and women's featherweight divisions are. What would you do to change it up a bit and bring some more excitement into those divisions? Also, a la Madrid. Au Patleti. All right. Yeah, Madrid fans. Anyways, let's see. Men's flyweight division is a mess, but I think that could have been avoidable. Again, as I said, just have a freaking replacement. Have somebody that's on a win streak waiting for Figueiredo to miss weight, right? I think has Figueiredo had issues with weight before? I believe so. Let me just double check because I don't want to say something that's not true. Either way, like, you needed a champion so bad that you need to take all the right measures to ensure that happens. So the possibility of somebody missing weight was definitely it's not far-fetched, right? People miss weight all the time. So have a replacement, man. And then also, and I believe Aaron Bronstetter, hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name right, from TSN. He's a cool dude. He tweeted a little fact, something like in 2020, fighters that missed weight are 3-0. And for a long time, like a few years ago, I remember usually the guys that missed weight, and ladies, usually were the ones that ended up losing, right? But for whatever reason, I feel like that's changed. And all of a sudden, whoever comes in heavy is usually the one that wins. I mean, we just saw Ray Borg, right? That's one of the guys in 2020 that's missed weight and won. Right? Remember when Mackenzie Dern came in like 7 pounds heavy? I mean, Yoel Romero fighting this weekend knocked out Luke Rockhold, and that was supposed to be a title fight, and it wasn't. Kind of like the same situation with Benavidez and Figueiredo. Missed weight and still won the fight. So I don't know. I mean, again, this is all, should have, would have, and this is all speculation. But would the fight look different if Figueiredo would have made 125 and he wouldn't have came in to the fight as heavy? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe Benavidez would have fought somebody that's actually 125 pounds. Maybe a fight would have looked different. Again, as you said, that division is a mess. Now, women's featherweight is not much of a mess. It's just not much of a division. That's the problem. What would I do to fix it? Simple. Sign more featherweights. Not let go of Chris Cyborg. It's simple. But, it is what it is. I think, and speaking of that, because I think it's important, and I'm glad you brought that up. So Felicia Spencer picked up a nice win. Megan Anderson picked up a nice win. Both fighters picked up first-round finishes, and now all of a sudden there's a little bit of a race between who's going to get the shot and Amanda Nunes. We know that Amanda Nunes wants to defend her featherweight belt next, having defended her bantamweight belt against Germaine de Randamie in December. Now she wants to go up to 145, defend that belt, really do the champ duties. She might be the only champ that's actually champ work in the UFC, because I know Ryan Bader is doing his thing at Bellator. So yeah, anyway, so what was I with that? So yeah, I think that division is actually panning out to be. All of a sudden you got two interesting challengers. I think both fights will be pretty good. I think the biggest fight would probably be Megan Anderson. I feel like she's the bigger name. She's certainly a bigger name and more known than Felicia Spencer, just because she's been in bigger fights. She's also been in the UFC for longer, so she's had that UFC exposure. And also, just she's big, dude. She's 6 feet tall, and she's just huge. She looks like a men's welterweight. Like, she's just, I mean, I don't know how she makes 145 pounds. I have no idea. She's huge. She's jacked up too. So I would like to see that fight, just because it's kind of like a DC, and it's not exactly the same, but it'd be kind of like a Daniel Cormier versus Anthony Johnson. Like, you kind of know how that's going to play out, given, the fact that Megan Anderson is, again, not so great on the ground, and she's been exposed there, before. Felicia Spencer did that. Holly Holm did that. So same thing with Anthony Johnson fighting Cormier, and we know how good Amanda Nunes is on the ground, being a black belt. I mean, she just displayed great grappling against Germaine in her last fight. So you kind of know how that's going to go out, but at the same time, you see Megan Anderson landing that straight right, just one punch, and dropping, putting away Norma Dumont, knocking her out in the first round. And, she's just got this physicality. So it's kind of like the same feel of that DC Rumble, where you're just like, you kind of know how it's going to go, but at the same time, it's like, what if she lands that one shot? Like, how is she going to do with dealing with the size, with the power of Megan Anderson? So in that sense, that'll be interesting. But if you're asking me what's the toughest challenge for Amanda Nunes, I think Felicia Spencer. She's tough as shit. I think she might be a jiu-jitsu black belt. Let me check that as well. Yeah, she's a black belt in Taekwondo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's a phenomenal grappler. And honestly, I don't know who's the better grappler between Nunes and Felicia Spencer. I think maybe Nunes, just because she's a little bit more proven. I've seen a little bit more of her. But at the same time, who is the natural 45er? That's Felicia Spencer. And when it comes to grappling, that's when weight matters. Maybe in striking, not so much. But in grappling, weight matters a ton. And if you're neck and neck with skill, maybe you're slightly better, but someone else is much more bigger than you. That could be a difference. And then we saw her go to a decision against Chris Cyborg and take a beating. And Chris Cyborg, we know about the power and the punishment that she's able to dish out. So again, I think Nunes might hit a little harder, and she's a little bit more precise with her shots. But it's definitely enough evidence for me to think that she might be able to withstand the punishment on the feet against Nunes and might be able to win the fight on the ground. Again, I'd still favor Nunes in a fight, but if you're asking me who's the better contender between Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer, I think Felicia Spencer poses interesting questions to the champion. So yeah. Anyways, so that does it for the Twitter questions. I'm going to take things now to the live chat, which I haven't been paying attention because I don't have a second monitor here, and answer those questions. So anyways, thank you everybody who submitted questions on Twitter. I love you so much. This gives me the headline for the YouTube video that's that's going to go out. Instead of just saying live Q&A, I actually have topics, and yeah, I get to go right into the questions and the talk without having to wait and see what people post on the chat. So thank you so much for everybody that participated on Twitter. Love you. All right. Let's check out the live chats. His beard in the preview pic is looking good. Thank you, man. See, I'm telling you guys, it's growing. A few live chats ago, a few live Q&As ago, somebody asked me like, oh, so, do I have any hope? I'm, in my early 20s, I can't grow any facial hair. I was that guy. I was that guy. And look at this, getting compliments on the live chat about my beard. Again, it's not fully there, but it's something, certainly something. And I trimmed it too, like recently, so it was a little bit looking a little bit more wild a few days ago. Thank you, Tien Trin, for the compliment. Appreciate that. James Fallon Cote, is Megan Anderson overhyped, or did you see improvement in specifically her ground game? 100%. Well, not 100% that she's overhyped, 100% that she's improving. As far as being overhyped, I don't think she was overhyped. I mean, she was a champion in Invicta. She was undefeated entering the UFC. Like, just that alone, being a champion in Invicta, which often any other organization outside of the UFC is seen as less. But the fact that the UFC didn't have a 145-pound division, it's kind of like the WEC in that sense. Like, whoever's fighting there is really the best in the world. Like, so anyways, she was a champion there, unbeaten. I mean, I just talked wonders about her physicality. Just muscular, huge frame, rangy. So there was a lot of evidence and a lot of facts and a lot of we had a lot of things to hang on to and be like, okay, this chick's gonna be a big deal. She's legit, and I think she is. I just think she did have some hiccups in the UFC, but again, fighting under the bright lights is a little bit different. Also, I believe she didn't have that many fights logged in Invicta. Let me see. Let me pull up her record. So Megan Anderson entered the UFC. Oh, no, she wasn't undefeated. What am I talking about? No, she had lost before. My bad. But she was on a nice streak. And she was Invicta champ. I mean, she only had 10 fights entering the UFC, so that's not a whole lot. And then, from your first fight in, you're fighting Holly Holm, who has a shit ton of experience in kickboxing and boxing, also a former champion, been in the UFC for a long time. Really a legend in women's MMA. So that's a tough ask. And then the Kat Zingano fight, not much to say about that because she kicked Zingano in the eye, basically, again, tried to kick her in the head, and that happened, and the fight was waved off, and she won via TKO. But it was so short, there wasn't a whole lot to take away from that. And then, she loses to Felicia Spencer, but again, Felicia Spencer is a beast on the ground. And now she's on a nice 2-fight win streak. And since that Felicia Spencer defeat, she's shown improvement. And she's shown, what we hope to see in the UFC. She knocked out, she got a first-round knockout with a beautiful straight right in her last fight. And then before that, she won via submission. So, there you have it, in both fights in the first round. So she's clearly improving, and that's great to see. How old is she? She's 30. So, again, she's born in 1990, a 90s baby, millennial. And a millennial, what am I talking about? So anyways, yeah, she's she's looking good in the UFC. Honestly, I wouldn't think it'd be a bad. I know she wants the next title shot at Amanda Nunes, but I don't think it'd be. I think it might be even better for her career to keep on building on that streak, like go into a title fight with a 3-fight win streak or a 4-fight win streak with several finishes, right? You're clearly improving, so keep improving, right? You want to be the best you can be entering that fight, and you're clearly showing that there's a lot more to your game than we're used to seeing. So let Felicia Spencer fight Nunes, and you keep building that streak and make it a bigger fight when you do fight Nunes. That's if Spencer doesn't beat Nunes, right? But again, if she gets to the next title shot, I wouldn't hate it either. I'd like to see that as well. But I don't think she's overhyped, and I do think she's improving, to answer your question. Now back to the chat. Have you ever had a staph infection? No, never. Again, that's a weird question. I did have ringworm once on my knee from wrestling. It's so easy to get ringworm because the mats are so dirty, and yeah, I did have ringworm once, but I just bought a little cream at Walgreens and put that on, and it went away in a few days. So it wasn't that bad. Are you worried about the coronavirus, given the density of population where you live? A Reddit user in Brooklyn recently, back from Japan, reported an underwhelming response after he reported symptoms. Yeah, I am a little worried about it. What's crazy? My boy was like a good friend of mine. He lives nearby me. We were supposed to meet up, and then he's like, "Oh wait, I gotta go buy masks. I forgot they have a specific name, like something C95 or something." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, buy me one just in case." And then like he got back to me like 30 minutes later. He's just like, "Yo, there's nothing. Like every single store I go to, everything is out." And I'm like, "All right, well, whatever. I'll just Amazon it." Pulled up Amazon, everything is sold out on Amazon. Today at the airport, I was a little sketched out because obviously I'm traveling to Vegas, so closer to the West Coast, which means closer to China. So I was like, I'm not taking many precautions besides like, washing my hands and kind of, not rubbing my eyes and stuff like that. And then I'm like, it'd be probably good to buy some hand sanitizer. None at the airport. Everything is sold out. And it kind of puts things into perspective, man. Like, when shit hits the fan, and this isn't that bad. This is not like it's bad, the coronavirus, but it's nothing like insane, right? Like people are like the fatality rate is not like ridiculous or anything like that. Like you kind of start realizing like shit can hit the fan pretty quick. Like the fact that like something doesn't exist on Amazon and you're so used to just clicking, and buying things quickly. I don't know. You're kind of like, whoa, it is a little bit, in a way, fascinating, but shocking a little bit. So yeah, but at the same time, from what I've read, it's like the coronavirus is mainly an issue to like the elderly or babies. I'm a healthy 27-year-old. Could say maybe prime of my my life. I don't even know, but I'm not concerned as far as like death or anything like that. But obviously, I don't want to get it because it will put me out of work, and the symptoms, I'm sure they suck. And yeah, New York City, Brooklyn. I don't live in Manhattan, so it's a little more chill in Brooklyn, less people, but nonetheless, the population density, as you mentioned, is quite high. So, and I believe New York just reported its first case too recently, today, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know, man. I'll take the precautions that I can and do the best I can to avoid any type of exposure. But beyond that, I'm going to keep living my regular life. I don't know what else to say about that, but it is a little scary. Do you think fighters need to stop accepting the fight if their opponent misses weight by a few pounds? So many examples of fighters losing big. 100%. 100%. But it's a tough situation because that's how they make their money. They don't get paid to train, they get paid to fight. So you put in months, 5-6 weeks into something specifically for one person, and then the day before the person's overweight, and all of a sudden they're throwing incentives on your face. You can make 20% of their purse, 30% of their purse. That's pretty enticing. So I don't blame fighters for taking fights and going on with the fight, knowing that their opponent missed weight and might have a size advantage come fight night. Ideally, you want to fight somebody that weighs the same, right? That way it's skill versus skill, right? Although that's kind of BS because we know there's people that are more athletic than others and all that. But nonetheless, usually you want to fight somebody that's your weight. So I guess ideally you don't want to take fights that, against opponents that are heavier. But as I mentioned, there's a monetary incentive for you to take the fight. Also time, like you just invested so much time into this, and money, like what you're just going to say no and wait a few more weeks. God knows when you're going to get booked again to fight. And even then, like you don't even know if that person that you fight or if you end up fighting the same person is going to make weight again. So you just go F it. I'm already here. I put in the work. I'm going to get more money. Let's do it. So I don't know. That's a fighter's call. It's a personal call. Ideally, you shouldn't take fights. It should be a fair fight. 125, you both 125 or whatever the weight is, and that's what you fight at. That's what you signed a contract to fight at. But again, if they choose to continue on and fight, I don't blame them. There are plenty of incentives and a lot of things that make sense for you to make that kind of decision. Gary Freeman, you the man, Danny. Just put my daughter to bed. Perfect timing. Yeah, I guess that Pacific time zone does suit some people. That's actually something I want to ask you guys. If you want to throw in the chat, what's kind of like the best time? Because I've been doing these on Sunday, and it kind of depends. Like if I work, if I work, I'm obviously not going to do it during work hours. So I do it, late in the evening or in the evening, late afternoon. If I don't work, I'll do it like midday, like 1 p.m. or something like that. And then I did one on Tuesday. I believe one of my highest ones, which I had like 100 people live. I believe that was like on a Tuesday at like 7:30 or something like that. And apparently that was a good time zone for people, like a good time frame. So I guess I'm still trying to figure out like what's the best day to do these and what's the best time as well. For now, I'm just focused on doing them, period. I think that's the most important part. So the time fluctuates, so I know it's kind of annoying because you guys don't know when things are coming, but I try to give as much anticipation as I can. I always announce on Twitter and also in the community tab on my YouTube channel. And yeah, we'll have to figure that out. But I'm glad this schedule worked out for you, and hopefully your daughter sleeps through the night and you get some good sleep as well, and get some good rest. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary, for tuning in. Spike Devito, hola, Segura. ¿Qué más? ¿Cómo estás? Did you see the Ian Cutelaba fight? Yeah, of course. What are your thoughts? I thought Ian looked. I thought he was playing possum. He was doing. Do you guys remember when Melvin Gillard fought? Who did he fight? I think it might have been Cerrone or Joe Lazon, either or. But like, either way, he got hit with a punch and did the whole. And then you see the guy trying to rush back in, and then he just throws heat. Like fighters do that, and I can totally see Ian doing that type of thing, and that's what I thought he did. I'm sure he got hit hard, like he still took a hit. I forgot what it was. It was a head kick that like wobbled him, right? But I mean, he still was in a perfect stance, and he was still throwing heat. One of the things when a fighter's rocked is and Leonard Garcia told me this once a long time ago, is like you feel like one of your legs is longer than the other. So when you try to get in your stance, you're kind of like a baby deer, just coming out of the wound. Like you don't know how far I guess how long your legs are and how far you can plant on the floor, and you're kind of just like trying to gauge that, and that's how I felt like, and I didn't see that present. He was in a nice balanced stance. Yeah, his head was wobbling, but his body looked like he was in balance. And then you see the referee wave off the fight, and all of a sudden he's complaining and he looks completely there. Also, when he was wobbly and the guy was trying to finish him, dude, Ian was stopping all the hits for the most part, like was checking them. I'm sure like some of them go through. I mean, it's the small gloves, and you even hit yourself with your own hands and stuff. But he looked more than competitive. It was a regular, common brawl / firefight that I'm used to seeing, covering this sport. So I thought it was a pretty bad call. I hope they run that fight back because it was pretty exciting all the way through, from the face-off to the moments right before they actually fought to the actual fight. So I hope to see that fight. I hope to see they run it back, and hopefully soon. And yeah, I thought it was a bad stoppage, and I thought Ian was playing possum. Yeah, that's what I thought about that. Spike Derito, if Romero does get the upper hand, who do you think would it be his first defense? So if Romero does beat Israel Adesanya, that would be huge for him. And who would be his first title defense? I would say Jared Cannonier, but he's looking for a fight. Did he get a fight? Let me see. Yeah, I believe Jared Cannonier still doesn't have a fight, so maybe him. Unless he gets booked, then obviously he's gonna have to fight whoever he has to honor that and fight whoever they put in front of him. Maybe let's see. Let me look at the rankings right now. I don't know who. Even if Adesanya wins, like who would be the next contender? That's a great question. I haven't really looked. I feel like everyone's like, this is something that I love about this fight. I feel like with, for example, the Khabib versus Tony Ferguson fight, everyone's already overlooking Tony Ferguson, which I think it's BS. All the talks are, Conor versus Khabib 2, Conor versus Khabib 2, and talking to Javier Mendez, he's like, bro, that's ridiculous. Like, we respect Tony Ferguson so much, and he's such a dangerous fighter that we don't want to talk about anyone else. Khabib specifically called him to say, Coach, I do not want you to talk about anyone else. We're only dealing with Tony Ferguson, and that's what we're focusing on. So that's amazing. And I feel like this Adesanya versus Romero fight is getting the treatment that I wish the Ferguson versus Khabib fight would get, in the sense of no one's looking past that fight. Like, no one's looking, okay, is Adesanya, who are you going to fight next? Who are you going to fight next? No, we're all focused on UFC 248 happening next Saturday here in Vegas. And that's awesome. Who would it be? Oh, Paulo Costa. Yeah. So as soon as Paulo Costa gets healthy, Paulo Costa versus Romero 2, that'd be an amazing fight. That'd be an amazing fight. The first one was awesome. They had a little bit of beef and bad blood. The type of bad blood that I like. Nothing was taken too far. Everything was all within competition. So I guess that would be his first defense. Paulo Costa is the guy that deserves the next title shot, whether Israel Adesanya or Yoel Romero wins. He's the guy that should have been fighting this weekend, but a bicep injury did not let that happen. But yeah, to answer your question. When will you stop supporting Galatasaray? They actually recently won 3-0 and Falcao scored 2 goals. Dude, I've always liked Galatasaray. Like, that's always a team that I like, but I never really follow it. There's a lot of teams that I like, but I don't follow, that I'll check out their highlights and their big games, especially like if it's a big Champions League game or a big Europa League game. But as far as like the regular season, the regular league, I don't really follow it that closely. I just follow La Liga and some Premier stuff now. And now I've been getting into Serie A lot. Serie A has been getting good. But lately, because Falcao, my fellow Colombian, I got a rep, homie. Falcao is one of the best strikers that Colombia has ever had. As far as number nines, Falcao is the best Colombia has ever had. He could have been so much better and so much greater, but unfortunately, injuries really derailed his career. But when he was at the top, dude, Falcao, unstoppable, the man. And I love his style of play. So I'll watch all the highlights of Galatasaray and I'll support that team because of Falcao. Also, Farid Mondragon, a legend of Colombian, one of the best Colombian goalkeepers. He's an old school guy. He was in the 90s and early 2000s. He was a goalkeeper for Galatasaray for a long time. So historically, there's been some good Colombians in Galatasaray. So I'll support that team. So I don't know if you support Beşiktaş or other Turkish teams, but that's my team as far as the Turkish league goes. Also, little fact, I actually used to train with I didn't train with Falcao, but his dad used to train me in soccer. His dad had an academy in Bogota, so it was Ramel Falcao Sr. And I remember the uniforms of the team were the Barcelona uniforms, just with the name of the academy. And yeah, I played with them for a few years. And Falcao was in his late teenage years at that time, and he was like in a couple of local clubs, and he was in like sub-18, like U18 or something like that. Back when I was a kid, maybe a little younger, and I remember like there was rumblings within the camp and the soccer academy of like, dude, this guy's gonna make it big, and his dad would always tell us, watch out, like, this guy's gonna make it, and he turned into one of the biggest one of the best Colombian players ever. So yeah, I got the pleasure to kind of meet him early and meet his dad, who passed away like a couple of years ago. Rest in peace. His mom, an excellent person, would always give us refreshments and I remember one time, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was for the World Cup in not Africa. Was it Korea, Japan, or the one after that? I don't remember, but there was a player in an African team that just kind of dropped in the middle of a game and passed out. And I don't know if it was dehydration, but he died. He like went into like seizures and they had to carry him out and he ended up dying. And a lot was made was like, oh, he was dehydrated and all this. So I remember Falcao's mom would like, after that happened, dude, the refreshments, like all the time, like any little break, we'd get like water and Gatorade, like basically like cared to all the kids. Because I mean, parents were concerned. I was like, it was a perfectly healthy young athlete that died in the middle of the field. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I don't think I've ever told that little story or background about me. But yeah, and I believe I still have the uniform. Maybe I don't know, or did I throw it away? But yeah, it's tiny now because again I was a kid. But yeah, P Daddy a la Madrid. Marcos Levy, I'm sad for jiu-jitsu. Yeah, man. With media, you try to be as unbiased as possible, but with someone like, Joseph Benavidez, who's an OG of the game, who does everything right, always a professional, makes weight. You never see him in a bad headline saying something really bad about someone or about a race or, whatever, religious belief or anything. Never like that. Always a gentleman, always a professional, always putting on exciting fights, always doing the best to stay at the top of the game, and he's managed to do so like in the last decade, which is incredible. I really wanted to see him win a belt. That would have been nice for his legacy. I'm not gonna lie, but the fight game is a ruthless and cold game, and you'll see some beautiful moments, but you also see some rough moments as well, and this is one of them. Definitely sad for Joseph Benavidez, but look, man, keep your head up. You're still one of the best flyweights on the planet. For a long time, you're one of the best bantamweights as well. And you're a world-class fighter. He's had a super successful career as an MMA fighter. He has a beautiful relationship with Megan O'Leary. It was kind of cute seeing the build-up. Mike Bong did a great interview with Megan O'Leary talking about Joseph's legacy and all that. They make a good couple. And yeah, man, just all around a great dude. And I've interviewed him a few times, and super nice guy, super nice guy, always a gentleman. And I believe that at that time, I was with MMA Fighting, and I interviewed him, and we talked about like Jonah Hill and like a few fashion icons and like a little bit about fashion for like 5 minutes of the interview. And I could talk to him about fashion for like a long time, but I know some people were really mad at it. They're like, oh, stick to sports, stick to MMA, and some others enjoyed it. But yeah. But again, that's the fight game, man. Fight game is ruthless, and these type of things will happen. Uncle DMA, Joe B needs to go. No, I think he can still compete. First of all, let's see what happens with 125. If they scrap 125 and they're like, hey, man, you got to go to 135, then I'd be like, hey, Joseph can do whatever the hell he wants. But I would definitely, retirement, I don't know. I mean, he's 35, fighting a weight class above, and he's fought at 125 for so long. So his body is now smaller and adapted to fight at that weight and not 135. It definitely, at 35 years of age, going up a weight class, build up again to a title shot, considering the type of sharks that are in that division, that's a tough thing to do. But if he wants to do it, I'm sure he's more than capable of getting back up there. But again, a tough thing. As far as flyweight, if flyweight does stick around, I mean, I know he's lost in several title fights, but again, he's still one of the bigger names in that division. He still has a win over Cejudo. That matters. If they stick with 125, I wouldn't like to see him go. I think, have a few fights at 125 for fun and see where that takes you. If you're still looking like a killer and, putting people away, maybe another run. Who knows? Worst call in UFC history. The stoppage. No, not the worst call. I mean, the Priscila Cachoeira versus Valentina Shevchenko is one of the worst stoppages I've ever seen. And there's plenty of more that should have been stopped. Oh, as far as like getting stopped early. Yeah, because Jan, that's what you're referring to. I don't know. Definitely not the worst. I feel like we've seen some pretty bad ones. Mm, I don't know. No, I don't know right off the top of my head. All right. So I'm actually past the hour mark or getting close to it. I'm gonna do a few more questions and then dip out. I'm actually hungry. I'm gonna get some food. So I'm just gonna kind of pick the ones that catch my eye from the chat. I think it's mostly comments. What happens if Yoel Romero misses weight? I don't know if they. I know Darren Till wanted to be a replacement. He was talking about that. I don't know if they have one. I guess we'll find out this week. But I think Israel Adesanya has even said like, "I'll take the fight regardless. I'll fight him. I'll take his money, and I'll fight him and retain my belt." Have you noticed how much hardcores insist in men's flyweight is the best division skill wise, but nobody outside of that small bubble cares about them? Yeah, I mean the casuals, you know, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Definitely the flyweight division caters to the hardcores, as you mentioned, Bobby Knuckles, on this question, far more than it does the casuals. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I mean, Joe Rogan and a few others have thrown the idea of, hey, because they're so small and they're actually smaller than most men, there's a belief that, hey, this guy's like half my size. I can kick his ass. And, why would I want to watch, I don't know. Why would I watch these small men fight? I don't know. But, and yeah, that's true. That's a big argument as to why get rid of the division. But at the same time, the UFC, yes, the UFC makes good money and really good money off the casuals, right? But at the same time, what keeps they also have a solid little base that's what the hardcores keep, and you have to cater to the hardcores as well. You can't just do everything casuals, or else Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor and Jorge Masvidal, regardless of where they are in their career, they'd be fighting for titles every single fight they're in. You gotta abide by some rules, and you gotta have things that are good for the hardcores. And I think the flyweight division is that you don't see any media member, you don't see any, and every single media member for the most part, I would consider them a hardcore fan. And everyone that's usually involved in Twitter and that follows me, like rarely I see people complaining about the flyweight division, and it's a good chunk of people. Again, it's not the biggest, it's not the biggest population as maybe as the casuals, but I don't know. It's a fun division to have. It's another belt you can circulate and have in headlining slots. From time to time, it can build off interesting fights. I mean, we saw TJ Dillashaw fight Henry Cejudo. That was a big fight. So again, not a lot of super fights present itself for that weight class, but every now and then they do. So again, I don't know. If I were the UFC, I'd keep it. I'd keep it, but I'm not. So Benavidez versus Figueiredo rematch. Figueiredo, I mean, there was a few headbutts and stuff, but I didn't feel like that was much of the vibe. Like, oh, well, there needs to be a rematch. I don't feel like there was much of a vibe after that. So I don't know if that'll happen. I don't know. My guess is no, at least not immediate. All right, I'll do one more and then dip out. Did you have juice boxes in Colombia? You spelled Colombia wrong, Daniel Yerk or Yerky. But yes, of course. Hugo's Heat. It was a brand of juices. HIT. Hugo's Heat. I still have those every now and then when I come across them. Best juices. Best thing after a natural juice, obviously. Ideally, you want natural juice, which is so easy to find. Like in Colombia, people drink a lot of juices. The fruit in Colombia is amazing. It tastes so much better than the fruit here in the States. And the culture there is very. I feel like people here in the US don't eat a lot of fruit. Maybe some do, maybe some, but in Colombia it's very normal. Like it's not like a healthy thing. It's not like oh, I'm eating fruit because I'm trying to be healthy. No, it's just like you eat fruit because that's everyday life. They sell fruit in the streets. Every restaurant has tons of juices you can order from. Fruit is just a big part of our daily life. So juices is awesome. Yeah. One of my favorite things in Colombia is el jugo de mora, just any type of juice. Fruit in Colombia is amazing. All right. I think that does it. I know I went a little long, 5 minutes past the hour mark, but that's okay. But anyway, so some things to look out for. I'm here in Vegas, as I said. A lot of coverage to come for UFC 248 on MMAJunkie.com. So make sure you tune into that. Tomorrow, I believe I will be making an appearance on on Tuesday. Sorry. On Tuesday, Spinning Back Click, a show that MMA Junkie has been producing here in Vegas with John Morgan, Gorgeous George, and Goes. I'll be appearing on that show, so making my debut, I guess. So I'll be talking further about UFC 248 and a few other topics on that. So make sure you check out that show when it comes out. I don't know if I'll do another live stream later in the week. Maybe if you guys are down, I'm down. Obviously, without you guys, without your questions, without your participation, there is no live Q&A. So, yeah, let me know. Tweet me if you want me to do one of these closer to the fight. And after, the interviews and all that, maybe I'll have a little bit of better insight to provide to you about UFC 248. But besides that, that's it. That's all I got going. And yeah, so make sure you tune into MMA Junkie for all your news for UFC 248. We got you covered. Follow me on Twitter. You probably already do if you're watching this. If not, go to Instagram as well. Follow me on Instagram. I'll be posting a lot of stuff about Fight Week on my Instagram. It's all at Danny Segura TV, as well on my Facebook page, which is at Danny Segura TV as well. So find me in all those places. Also, subscribe to this channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Tell your friends about it and tell them how great I am at doing these. And yeah, subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when I go live next. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Have a great night, and hopefully, you enjoy our coverage this week of UFC 248. So thank you so much for all your support. Love you guys. Hasta luego.